The SA Hellcat. My thoughts. All right, so really quick before we get started, this is a loaded mag. However, I have my bore sight laser in the barrel, so it's impossible for a live round to actually feed. So we're good? We're good. So the Springfield Armory Hellcat. Let me start by saying I'm not going to get into politics with guns. I buy them to protect my family and my person. I look for new and innovative products that can help me do that to the best of my ability, period. Yeah, there's been drama with Springfield Armory, but all that aside, I am just going to give you my thoughts about the gun today, okay? So, the Hellcat. Where to start? When this gun was first released, I was definitely eyeing it. I'm not so interested into microguns at all, but for the capacity that this one was sporting, the whole 13+1, I thought that was phenomenal for the size, and I was willing to give it a shot. That being said, I've never been a fan of smaller guns in general. We all know what comes with smaller guns. It used to be the ammo or capacity, the snappiness, quote unquote, as well as the accuracy. But like I said, the reason that this was so overwhelming for me in my thoughts of purchasing it was for the capacity. It made up for a lot. 15 rounds in this is crazy to me. The thing that everybody loves to run to and talk about when it comes to micro or subcompact guns is the snappiness. So we'll get into that first. Listen, if you're new here, my thoughts on recoil don't change. It's a 9mm round. Yes, it's a shorter barrel. Yes, there's less weight. So innately, it's going to be more snappy. And you know what, let's talk about that term real quick. We're not talking about the actual recoil. The recoil is the same on any 9mm ammo, as long as it's the same ammo, right? Fair enough? It's just the weight of the gun, your grip, and the bore axis that determine how much the muzzle flips. So that's what most people mean when they're talking about the recoil. You know, it's the same recoil, it's just more muzzle flip. How do you override muzzle flip? Good technique. All of you know right now that I'm in love with PPQs, right? We have more than established that I love this firearm, right? However, innately, they are quote unquote snappy. Again, the muzzle tends to flip more, so people say, than other guns because it has a higher bore axis. I am nowhere near the greatest shooter in the world, but with technique, I shoot my PPQ rather flat, as do a lot of people. Fairly easy. The first thing you should be looking for a gun is not how soft it shoots. You can override that with your technique. I guess I'm just innately drawn to snappy guns because this is apparently another snappy gun. Listen, I'm not even going to entertain the argument anymore. This is what it looked like when I took my first shots out of the Hellcat at the range. If you think that's snappy, so be it. All I can say is that I was shooting in the lower third of the red dot, and I tracked it all the way to the top, and then it went back down on target. The red dot never left the actual housing. So I fired it back to back with my PPQ. It feels the same. My PPQ feels the same as every Glock 19 I've ever shot. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Like I said, by no means am I the greatest shooter. Early on, I just watched a lot of, not even professional shooters, just people in general that I really saw that they could just shoot so super flat and so accurate. And I watched them and I studied them. And I studied what they were doing mechanically. And then it kind of just transitioned. And it didn't matter what they shot. If it's a 9mm, it's a 9mm. Unless it's like, it has a heavier weight to the gun, I don't really care, I don't really feel it. Maybe just a hint more muzzle flip than like a PPQ or a subcompact like a Glock 19. And the reason why I feel, or why I know that is, obviously it's a lighter gun. Okay, it's gonna take a little bit more effort. Also, just the ergonomics and being able to really, you know, lock down on it. So that is that. Now onto something that's way more important in these guns, the triggers. Some of you may know from my past videos that I am very into smooth, easy triggers, just crisp triggers. I wouldn't say I'm a trigger snob, but I really do like that. And especially if you watched my videos where I kind of like modified, you know, the PPQ trigger and all that, you know what I'm talking about when I say like a smooth trigger pull. That being said, out of the box, a lot of people are saying this trigger is good in the Hellcat. In my personal opinion, it is pretty bad. There was a bunch of issues with the trigger safety locking up. I didn't really have those issues. If you have a good trigger pull, it doesn't really bother you as much. Sometimes it would hitch, but it never really stopped me from pulling the trigger straight back. That aside though, the trigger feels pretty cheap. It's spongy. Mind you, I am coming from a PPQ, a very tuned PPQ trigger. I think I measured it at 6.5 pounds on the pull. It was gritty, the reset was weak. I'm just gonna be honest, it wasn't a good trigger. I'm not gonna go ahead and rate it, but let's just say it was a pretty bad trigger. So that's why I swapped it out with the Apex Action Enhancement trigger. So this trigger definitely smoothened up the pull completely, gave it a nice reset. It was just really good, really good. Unfortunately, it wasn't as good as I wanted it. So I did go ahead and polish all the internals. I did tweak some of the springs and all that good stuff. And I think right now it's measuring at a 3.5 pound pull. So not only is it ridiculously smooth, but it's a 3.5 pound brake, which is what right around where I really like. My PPQ is currently at it's clear. It's a 3 pound brake, which is really good. So having the Hellcat at a 3.5 was very similar. Not as good as my PPQ, even with the Apex trigger. So trigger pull, definitely important. Another one of the issues, like we said, that, you know, plagues micro guns or subcombat guns is the lack of accuracy. You know, you're taking off not quite an inch, but you're taking off quite a bit off the barrel. I didn't really test long range accuracy, but at around 10, 12 yards, I mean, I was probably, groups were within an inch or two. I'm not planning on ever having to shoot further than that with this gun, so it works for me. I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could hit stuff out to 25, 50 yards with it, so not bad at all. However, one major annoyance that I had with the Hellcat out of the box was that the iron sights it wasn't lined up. I mean, even at like 5 yards, it was off probably by, I want to say a couple of inches, and a couple of inches at 5 yards is pretty bad. So that was a little bit of an annoyance. So I had to tighten it up and get the sights where I needed them. And currently I do have a really good co-witness with the red dot. Now I know people are gonna feel some kind of way about it being a Romeo 0 on it, but you know what? It's hard to get anything gun related right now. I was gonna have to wait, I think it was something like 6 months for a 507 or a 407K, and I'm not going to do that. And to be honest with you, I like the U-notch on the Hellcat. So although the red dot might not be the best, if it goes down, I'm really good with the irons right now, so that works out. Not the biggest deal to me personally. So as you can tell, out of the box, it had some issues. More issues than I personally would have wanted it to have, but again, the capacity, right? So now that I've told you majority of the flaws that it came with, what are the good features that it has that I really liked? Aside from it being as compact as it is, the stippling was really good. You guys know I love rough stippling. However, with the narrow frame, it just wasn't working. It's not like it was ripping up my hand. I could care less about that, even if it was. It was more so that I couldn't get the purchase that I wanted on it originally. So after putting these rubber grips on it, I'm not gonna say the brand because unfortunately, YouTube will think I'm trying to tell you guys to go buy it. But after I got these rubber grips on it, for whatever reason, it felt like it changed the complete ergos on it, which is weird because it barely added a millimeter thickness to the whole gun. But like I said, it feels so much better in the hand now. Not that the traction is better, but the grip is better. Weird. Also, it has these finger rests, which I have now become such a fan of. I'm not that guy with the sport hand that presses into it either. With their thumb, I just don't do that. I don't need to do that. But I find myself resting my finger there more than anything. So for a new shooter, this is probably a great gun just for that alone. This feature is overlooked. It really is. Not necessarily for the shooting purpose, just for safety purposes. The mag release is amazing. I love the location. I don't have to alter my hand whatsoever. I would say I have medium-ish, largish, medium-ish hands in weird directions. My hands are really wide this way, but I don't have to adjust whatsoever to get to the mag release. The slide lock, slide release, whatever you want to call it, is also perfectly placed for me. I don't know for anybody else, but I know for me, the location works beautifully. I'm not left-handed, so I'm not going to worry about it so much. If you're a left-handed shooter, I know that's a flaw that it's only on one side. Though not deep, it comes with forward and rear serrations, and the front right here is beveled. It also has a standoff on the recoil spring, which is just an awesome feature. So for this little gun to have such a large feature package that a lot of the bigger named and just bigger guns overall don't have yet, I thought it was pretty cool, pretty amazing. As far as carrying it, do I feel like I carried this easier than my M&P 2.0 or my PPQ? No. No. Does the size help? No. I tell everybody it's easier to hide a full gun, in my opinion, than it is to hide one of these small micro guns. The reason is when it's inside your belt line, it doesn't have enough down here, so it wants to spill out. So it actually ends up printing more. But where it really shines is the weight. It's light, even loaded. It is light. It's very light. I can't say that enough. It is light. For that feature alone, for a lot of people, it's going to be worth it. Now, a lot of you are probably asking, did I try this against the SIG P365? Yes, I did. I thoroughly tested both of them, and a lot of people are coming out with, you know, P365 on top. I'm not going to make it a competition. I just know that the Hellcat worked better for me, okay? That's based on, at the time, the grip and the features. Primarily, of course, capacity being one of them. Originally, I actually bought this for my wife in the hopes that she would carry more often. She does carry, but I wanted her to carry more often. And she was like, no. So she clearly loves bigger guns, so scratch that. Now, important question. Would I recommend this for somebody who is just getting into guns? It's tough. You're going to have to, at least with my model, I had to invest some extra money into it, and it may not be something that everybody can do. It may not be something that everybody wants to do, especially if they don't see the importance of the capacity and weight. Maybe. It's a strong maybe. I don't see it as a bad gun. Right now, currently, how I have my Hellcat, this is an amazing, amazing gun right now. Clearly, after everything I just said, it was not like that out of the box. So that's a rough call. I'll just say this. There are probably better alternatives out of the box that I would probably recommend first. Not a bad gun at all. It's not a bad gun. But for price and features, you could probably do a little bit better, unless the size and the capacity are that important to you. Which for me, originally buying it for my wife, it was. Personally, I have no problems carrying it now. I've probably been carrying it for the past month to test it. It's good. It's good. In this setup, I wouldn't mind, you know, recommending it for anybody. That being said, though, we all still know where my heart is. However, the fact that this, with its standard mag, and this are pretty much carrying the same exact payload, that's something to take note of. With 2 of these magazines and 1 in the chamber, I'm carrying 29 rounds in this. Ridiculous. So trying to be as neutral and honest in my thoughts about the Hellcat. Hopefully it helps you decide whether you want to purchase it or not. Either way, take what I say with a grain of salt. Look at other reviews, go check out the guns yourself, see what works for you. That's it. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.
Yeah, I'm sick of all the fake